The chrysalis station hung in the silent black, a silver flower orbiting a giant swirl of orange and red gas. Inside, the air hummed with life and machines. Beings of many shapes moved through the clean, bright halls. There were the Vulprek, tall and thin with gray fur, who walked with a quiet grace. There were the solid, rock-like Thrum, who spoke in low, rumbling voices. And there were the humans, seen by most as pleasant, clever, but physically unremarkable. Kim Ji-hun was one of these humans. A xenobotanist, his world was the station's large garden deck, a place of green leaves and quiet growth. He was a man of calm movements and few words. His colleague, Park Soo-min, often thought he seemed most at home with his plants, where his gentle hands could check a leaf or adjust water flow without hurry or fuss. The communal galley was where all species met for meals. It was a rule to build understanding. The food dispensers could make anything, from Vulprek nutrient paste to Thrum mineral cakes. Today, a special treat had arrived on a supply ship from Earth, a box of small, red berry tarts. They were a rare piece of home for the human crew. Ji-hun sat with Soo-min and Lee Tae-shik, an engineer with clever eyes and oil often on his fingers. Ji-hun was listening to Tae-shik explain a problem with the water recyclers. His dark eyes were focused, his face relaxed. "So the filter thinks it's full, but it's only half full," Tae-shik said, waving a utensil for emphasis. "It's a software ghost, I'm sure of it." Soo-min smiled, pushing her own meal around. "Just don't let it ghost our water supply, Tae-shik." Ji-hun gave a small nod, reaching for his glass of water. The station's AI, a quiet presence in every room, monitored these meals. It watched heart rates, skin temperatures, and eye movements. It looked for reactions to new foods, for signs of allergy or disgust. It was a tool for health and harmony. At the next table, a Vulprek scientist stood up, its long limb accidentally bumping the service console. There was a soft beep, a whir, and then a clatter. The dispenser slot for human dietary option 12 slid open and a single, perfect berry tart shot out onto the tray line. Instead of stopping, the conveyor belt, misaligned from the bump, jerked into a fast cycle. The tart, glistening with glaze, began to slide. It picked up speed, rushing down the metal slope toward the edge of the table where the three humans sat. It was a small, silly thing. A lost dessert. Soo-min saw it first. "Oh," she said, pointing. Tae-shik turned, his eyes going wide. "Hey, catch it." Ji-hun's head turned last. His gaze shifted from Tae-shik's face, across the table, and found the moving tart. It was a quick, red blur against the steel gray in that instant. The AI's sensors fixed on Ji-hun's face, triggered by the raised voices. It recorded his physiological data. What it recorded was strange. His heart rate did not jump. His breathing did not hitch. But his pupils, the black centers of his eyes, changed. They did not just get a little bigger. They expanded rapidly and widely, becoming deep, dark pools that almost swallowed the brown of his irises. It was a spike, sharp and precise. The dilation was not for the food itself, but for its path, its speed, its trajectory as it zoomed toward the floor. His hand moved, too. It was a fluid, unconscious motion. His fingers spread, his arm tensed, tracking the tart's fall. But he was too far away. The tart hit the floor with a soft, sad splat, the red berries scattering. The moment broke. Ji-hun blinked. His pupils shrank back to their normal size. He let out a quiet breath, almost a sigh. "A waste," he said, his voice low. Tae-shik laughed. Quick reflexes, Ji-hun almost had it. Soo-min was not laughing. She had seen his eyes. She had seen that sudden, intense change. It was familiar, but she could not place why. Tugged at her scientific mind. "That was fast," she said carefully. Ji-hun just shrugged, a little embarrassed. "Reflex, I guess." Later, in her office, Soo-min reviewed the galley incident logs. The AI had flagged the event due to the sudden motion and raised voices. She watched the video. She saw the tart fly. She saw Tae-shik's face show surprise. She saw her own show alarm. Then she saw Ji-hun. She watched his eyes. She ran the footage in slow motion. Frame by frame, the pupil dilation was clear, isolated, and targeted. Perfectly matched the tart's movement. It was a hunter's tracking response. She pulled up comparison data. The station had files on vulprec physiology. When a vulprec saw potential prey, its pupils dilated, but they stayed dilated for the whole hunt. Jihan's had flashed like a camera's shutter, active only for the duration of the object's flight. A targeting system, not a predatory state. A deep, curious feeling settled in Sumin's stomach. She looked at the calm, quiet man in the video, now helping clean the mess from the floor with a polite smile. She looked at the data graph showing the violent spike in his pupil size. They did not match. She saved the file. She titled it Anomalous Galley Event Subject K. Jihan. The mystery, small and quiet as a berry tart hitting the floor, had begun. Park Sumin stared at the data on her screen. The graph was simple, but it showed something impossible. The line for Kim Jihan's pupil size was a calm, flat road. Then, the moment the tart began to move, the line shot straight up like a mountain. Then, the moment the tart hit the floor, the line dropped straight down. It was a perfect spike. She compared it to the vulprec data. Their pupil line went up and stayed up. It was a hill, not a mountain. Theirs was about wanting, about the hunt. Jihan's was about seeing, about tracking. It was a flash of pure, hard focus. Sumin knew she needed more data. She could not just ask him. If this was some deep, hidden thing, asking would make him think about it. It might change the result. She needed to see if it happened again without him knowing. She designed a small test. She told her department it was a study on food appreciation across species. She said she was looking at how different beings react to the beauty of food. This was mostly true. She asked for volunteers from all the species on the station, including humans. Jihan, being helpful, agreed to take part. The test room was simple. A chair, a large screen, a small sensor bar at the bottom of the screen would track eye movement and pupil size. Sumin controlled everything from the room next door. The first part was easy. She showed pictures of food on the screen. A bowl of vulprec stew, a thrum crystal cluster, a colorful earth salad, a plate of steaming noodles. She watched the data come in on her monitor. Jihan's reactions were normal. He smiled at the earth food. His pupils changed a little with interest. Nothing special. The second part was what she really wanted. She told him it was about food in motion, like in cooking shows. She started a video. It showed a chef tossing vegetables in a pan. Then a hand sprinkling salt. Then a piece of bread being buttered. Jihan watched. His pupils were calm. Then, Sumin played the next video. It was a simple clip made for this test. It showed a ripe, green apple on a counter. A hand entered the frame, picked it up, and tossed it gently into the air. The apple spun, rising and then falling. The hand caught it. On her screen, Sumin leaned forward. The data line for Jihan's pupils was flat. Then, the moment the apple left the hand, the line jumped. It stayed high, perfectly following the apple's arc up and down. The moment the hand caught the apple, the line dropped. Another perfect spike. Just like the tart. Her heart beat faster. She ran the next clip. A slice of bread being dropped into a toaster. No movement across the screen. No spike. Then, a clip of someone juggling 3 rolls of bread. Jihan's pupils spiked 3 times, each spike matching the moment a roll reached the top of its arc before falling. It was not about food. It was about a moving target. She needed a control. She needed to see a vulprec do the same test. She asked Kale, a vulprec botanist who worked with Jihan. He was happy to help. Kale sat in the same chair. The process was the same. The pictures of food. Kale's pupils dilated for the meat dishes, especially the raw ones. They stayed dilated. Then the motion videos. The tossed apple. Kale's pupils, already somewhat wide, did not spike. They just remained wide. He was interested in the apple as food. The movement did not change his basic state. The juggling rolls? Same thing. A steady, hungry interest. The difference was clear as day. The vulprec saw food. Jihan's brain, for a split second, saw a target in motion. That evening, Sumin found Lee Tae-shik in the engineering workshop. He was taking apart a broken sensor. Music played softly. She pulled up a chair. "I need to talk to you about something strange," she said. Tae-shik wiped his hands. "Strange is my middle name. What's up?" She showed him the two graphs on her tablet. The spiky mountain of Jihan's data and the steady hill of Kale's. She explained what the test was. Tae-shik whistled. "That's specific. It's like his eyes are a camera, and the lens zooms in for just a second." "Exactly," Sumin said. "It's not emotion. It's not hunger. It's a tracking reflex, a physical thing." "But why?" Tae-shik asked. "We're not hunters. Not like the Vulprek." "Maybe we were," Sumin said softly. "A long, long time ago. Maybe this is a leftover piece. A bit of old wiring in the brain that never got removed." Tae-shik thought about it. He remembered the galley. When that tart flew, he almost caught it. His hand moved before he even seemed to think. They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the hum of the station. It was a big, modern, safe place. It felt far away from ancient plains and hunting for food. "What does it mean?" Tae-shik finally asked. "I don't know," Sumin admitted. "Maybe nothing. Maybe it's just a curious bit of biology. But it feels significant. It's too precise to be useless." "Are you going to tell him?" Sumin looked at the graph, the sharp peak. She thought of Jihan's gentle face in the garden, talking to his plants. "Not yet. I need to understand it more. I need to see what else triggers it. If it's just food, it's a curiosity. But if it's other things—" She did not finish the sentence. The idea was too big. A hidden switch inside a calm, peaceful man. A switch that turned on a hunter's focus. What else, in the complex life of a deep space station, might look like prey to that ancient part of the brain? The idea would not leave Park Sumin alone. It sat in her mind as she worked on her other projects. It was there when she ate and when she tried to sleep. The sharp spike on the graph. The quiet man with the hunter's eyes. She needed to see it again, outside her tests. She needed to see it in real life. She started watching Kim Ji-hun more closely, but not in a way he would notice. She was a scientist. Observation was her job. She saw him in the garden, pruning a plant with careful snips. His focus was steady, but his eyes were soft. No spike. She saw him in the recreation room, playing a casual game of table tennis with Lee Tae-shik. When the small white ball flew fast across the table, Ji-hun's body moved smoothly to meet it. His eyes were sharp, but the game was fun, not serious. Sumin wondered if the reflex needed real stakes. Then came the chance. The station had a large central storage room, a place of tall shelves and crates. A delivery of new botany equipment for Ji-hun had arrived. Among the boxes was a special case holding delicate glass instruments. The case was long and thin. Ji-hun and a young assistant, Choi Mi-suk, were unpacking. Mi-suk was lifting the case from a high shelf. It was heavier than she thought. As she pulled it toward her, her grip slipped. The case tipped. It slid from the shelf. It was not falling straight down. It was sliding, then beginning to spin slowly. Inside were hundreds of credits worth of fragile glass. Mi-suk gasped. Ji-hun was a few steps away, looking at a label on another box. The movement, the sound, caught his attention. His head turned. Sumin, who was passing the open door, stopped and watched. Ji-hun's body went still. But it was not the stillness of shock. It was the stillness of a spring coiling. His eyes locked onto the spinning case. From where she stood, Sumin could see his face in profile. His pupils exploded in size. They became vast, dark pools. His face, usually so calm, looked different. All the softness was gone. It was like a mask had been removed. His jaw was tight. His eyes did not blink. They tracked the case's every tilt and turn. He did not run. He took 2 quick, long steps. His hands came up, not to catch wildly, but to meet the case. He calculated its spin. As it fell into his space, his arms moved to absorb the force, not stop it. His hands slid under the case, guiding it, slowing it. The momentum carried him down into a crouch, but he held the case level, safe against his chest. The whole thing took less than 3 seconds. Silence filled the room. Then Mi-suk let out a shaky breath. "Oh, Yi-hun, you saved it." The mask returned. Yi-hun blinked. His pupils shrank back to normal. He looked down at the case in his hands, a little surprised, as if he just realized what he was holding. His face relaxed into its usual gentle expression. "It's okay," he said, his voice quiet. "It's not heavy, just awkward." He stood up and placed the case safely on a table. Mi-suk was full of thanks. Ji-hun just nodded. Brushing it off, Sumin stepped into the room. "That was incredible reaction time," she said. Keeping her voice light, Ji-hun gave a small, humble smile. "I guess I got lucky. Saw it from the corner of my eye." But Sumin knew it was not luck. She had seen the eyes. She had seen the total transformation. It was not about catching. It was about solving. The falling case was a problem. Target. And his brain had switched to a mode that did nothing but solve it. Later, she met Lee Tae-shik again. She told him what she saw. She described the eyes. Tae-shik listened, his playful mood gone. "So it's not just food," he said. "No," Sumin said. "It's a moving object of high value. Something that needs to be acquired or protected." She pulled up research on her tablet. Old Earth studies. She had been reading for days. "Look at this," she said. "They called it quiet eye in old sports science. Athletes, right before a free throw or a putt, their gaze steadies. Their focus narrows to just one point. It's a predictor of success." "But that's trained," Tae-shik said. "Maybe this is the raw, untrained version," Sumin replied. "Maybe it's deeper, ancient. Some scientists thought our ancestors, before they were even good hunters, were scavengers. They had to watch the sky for birds, watch the grass for movement, to find where the predators had made a kill. They had to spot opportunity and danger from far away. A flicker of motion could mean food or death." She looked at the photo of Ji-hun in the station directory. His kind face. What if that's the switch? Not hunger or anger, but critical resource in motion. For our ancestors, that was food. For him, in that moment, it was vital equipment. His brain treated it the same way. Tae-shik leaned back in his chair. The workshop hummed around them. "That's a scary thought. That means it could be anything. A falling tool. A drifting ship. A person slipping? A threat moving toward you," Sumin finished quietly. They sat with that idea. It was no longer a funny curiosity about food. It was a fundamental piece of human wiring. A tool for survival, buried under layers of civilization, but still there, working perfectly. "Does he know?" Tae-shik asked. "I don't think so," Sumin said. "It's too fast. It happens and then it's gone. He just feels like he noticed it quickly." "What are you going to do?" Sumin closed her tablet. "I need to talk to Commander June. He needs to know that one of our crew has a biological precision instrument inside him. We need to understand when it turns on. For his safety, and maybe for everyone's." Commander Choi Jun listened in silence. Park Sumin laid out her data on his desk tablet. The graphs from the galley and the tests. The security footage from the storage room, which she had saved, showing the clear change in Kim Ji-hun's eyes. Her theory about the hunter focus, a dormant, ancient reflex for targeting critical resources. June was a practical man. He had commanded the Chrysalis for 5 years. His job was to keep the peace between species and keep the station running. He saw problems, not mysteries. "You are telling me," he said slowly, "that Kim Ji-hun, our botanist, has a switch in his brain, a switch from our primitive past." "Yes, sir," Sumin said. "It's a physiological response. It's real. And you think this is a secret, something that would alarm the Vulprek or the Thrum if they knew." "I think they might see it differently," Sumin said carefully. "They might see it as a predatory trait, even though it's not. It's just a tool. But perception matters here." Commander June leaned back. He looked out the large window at the swirling gas giant. It was a view that usually made him feel calm. It did not now. For now, this stays between us, he said. You, me, and Engineer Lee. No more tests. No reports. We watch, but we do not poke. This station works on trust. I will not have a good man treated like a specimen because of a strange reflex. Sumin nodded, relieved and frustrated. She understood, but she wanted to know more. 2 days later, the station gave them a real test. It was not planned. An alarm blared in the middle of the night cycle. A pressure imbalance in Sector 7, the old hydroponics wing. It was a minor issue, but it was in a tight maintenance crawlspace. A faulty valve was leaking coolant into a clean oxygen line. Lee Taeshik was called to fix it. The space was too small for a repair drone to maneuver properly. It was a human job. Taeshik suited up for a short, internal EVA, meaning he would be in a sealed suit, but inside the station, in a cramped, zero-gravity tube. Sumin was on the support team in the control pod. Commander June was there too, monitoring. They watched on screens as Taeshik floated into the narrow shaft. His suit lights cut through the darkness, showing a tangled web of pipes and cables. I see the valve. Taeshik's voice came through, scratchy on the comms. It's worse than the scan showed. The coupling is cracked. I need to cut it out and splice in a new one. Copy, said June. Take your time. Steady hands. The procedure was delicate. One wrong cut could sever a primary data line. Taeshik began. But the zero gravity made it hard. His tools wanted to float. The broken valve was in an awkward position. He had to brace himself with one knee against a pipe. 10 minutes in. His breathing was louder over the comms. It's slippery. The cutter isn't aligning. I'm getting a lot of drift. Sumin watched the feed from his helmet cam. The image jittered and shook. She could see his frustrated movements. He was a brilliant engineer, but this was a job of pure, physical precision under stress. I'm losing my angle, Taeshik said, an edge of worry in his voice. If I slip, I'll cut the main conduit next to it. Commander June frowned. Do you need to back out? We can try the drone again. The drone can't get the angle either, sir. It has to be now, or we lose that oxygen line for 12 hours while we shut it down. A tense silence filled the control pod. They were stuck. Then, a quiet voice spoke from the doorway. I can help. It was Kim Ji-hun. The alarm had woken him. He stood there in his simple station clothes, his hair slightly messy from sleep. He had basic EVA certification, a requirement for all staff. June looked from Ji-hun to the screen, where Taeshik was struggling. It was a terrible risk, but the calm in Ji-hun's face was absolute. What is your plan? June asked. Taeshik is the brains. I can be the hands, Ji-hun said simply. He can guide me. My job is plants. My hands are used to small, careful work. It was true. Botany on the station often meant micrografting and delicate pruning. After a moment, June gave a sharp nod. Suit him up. Fast. Minutes later, Ji-hun was in the crawlspace. Taeshik, relieved, moved back to give him room. Okay, Ji-hun. You see the red conduit? Do not touch that. The valve is the blue metal ring. You need to cut right along this line I've marked with the laser. I see it, Ji-hun said, his voice calm on the comms and the control pod. Sumin pulled up the feed from Ji-hun's helmet cam on a main screen. She also pulled up his biometrics. His heart rate was elevated but steady. His breathing was even. He took the cutting tool. He floated, adjusting his position. He did not fight the zero gravity. He let it settle around him. Starting the cut, he said on the screen. Sumin and June could see his view. The broken valve. The shaky, drifting tool from before was now rock-steady. Ji-hun's hand did not waver at all. Then, Sumin looked at the secondary monitor, the one with his real-time facial bioscan. She pointed. Commander June looked. Ji-hun's pupils had expanded. They were wide and dark, almost swallowing the brown of his eyes. But they were not looking around in panic. They were fixed, laser-locked on the fine line where the cutter met the metal. The rest of his face was a blank of pure concentration. The hunter focus was activated. The moving target was not food or a falling case. It was a trembling, cutting line in zero gravity. His brain had filtered out everything else, the fear, the pressure, the floating, the complexity of the station around him. There was only the line and the tool. The cut was perfect, clean. He pulled the broken piece away. Taeshik, watching, let out a breath. Beautiful. Now the splice. Hand me the new coupler. Working together, they had the new valve connected in minutes. The pressure alarms stopped. The crisis was over. Back in the control pod, the mood was one of relief and tired celebration. Taeshik was clapping Jihan on the back. You were a statue. How did you hold so still? Jihan just smiled, a little shy. I just focused on the line you gave me. Sumin and Commander June exchanged a look over their heads. The data on Sumin's screen told the real story. The spike in pupil dilation was a perfect match to the duration of the cut. It was the same reflex. It had just found a new target. A single critical task for the survival of his tribe. The station was his tribe now. June knew then that Sumin was right. This was not a small thing. It was a deep, powerful part of a human. A tool of incredible value. And it was a secret they now had to keep. The incident in the crawlspace was officially recorded as a successful emergency repair. Lee Taeshik received commendation for his diagnostic work. Kim Ji-hun was noted for his exceptional manual dexterity and calm under pressure. The report was clean, simple, and buried in the station's logs. But for Commander Choi Jun, the problem was not buried. It sat heavily on his desk. He called Park Soo-min and Lee Taeshik to a private meeting in his office. The door was locked. We have a situation, Jun began, his voice low. Not a bad one, but a delicate one. He pointed to the data on his screen, the graph of Jihan's pupil dilation during the valve repair. This is not a simple reflex. This is a capability.
Taeshik nodded.
It's like a superpower he doesn't know he has. Precisely, Jun said. And on a station like this with multiple species, how do you think a superpower is viewed? Especially one linked to focus, targeting, and precision under threat. Sumin understood. The Vulprek would see it as a higher form of predation. The Thrum might see it as an unstable, biological unpredictability. They trust our machines. They might not trust a hidden switch in our brains. Exactly, Jun sighed. We have worked for years to present humanity as reliable, predictable, and peaceful. This could undo that trust in a moment. If this became common knowledge, Jihan would be watched. Humans would be watched. Every time one of us focused hard on something, someone might wonder if our hunter eyes were turning on. So what do? Taeshik asked. We contain the knowledge, Jun said firmly. For now, this stays with the three of us. No reports to Earth Central. No notes in the public medical files. Dr. Park, you will seal your research data under a commander-level security lock. We will not study it further. We will not speak of it. Sumin felt a twist of protest in her chest. The scientist in her wanted to understand, to explore. Commander, with respect, this could be important. If this is a shared human trait, it could explain why we excel in certain crisis tasks. Surgeons, pilots, rescue workers. It could be trained, understood. It could also be feared, Jun countered. And fear on a deep space station is a poison. I will not risk the cohesion of this crew for a scientific curiosity. Do you understand? This is an order. Sumin looked down. Yes, sir. Taeshik, ever the pragmatist, saw another angle. What about Jihan himself? Shouldn't he know? Jun thought for a long moment. He looked at the image of Jihan on his screen, taken from the station directory. The man was watering a small plant in the garden, a look of simple contentment on his face. Not yet, Jun decided. What would we tell him? That we have been watching him? That his biology has a secret mode? It would change how he sees himself. It might make him self-conscious, try to control it. And from what we've seen, it works best when it works alone. It is subconscious. Telling him might break it. The meeting ended. Sumin returned to her lab. She looked at the files, the videos, the graphs. With a heavy heart, she encrypted them and locked them away. The mystery was to be ignored. For the next week, life on the chrysalis returned to normal. Ji-hun tended his plants. Taeshik fixed minor system grumbles. Sumin worked on her official projects about cross-species nutrition. But the universe has a way of testing secrets. It started with a hobby. A Vulprek researcher named Kale, the same one who had taken Sumin's food test, had a personal interest. He kept a pet. This was against station rules for larger predators, but Kale had permission for a small, young Vulprek forest cat. It was a sleek, furry creature the size of a large house cat, with sharp teeth and claws. His name was Tisk. It was usually kept in a secure, enriched habitat in Kale's quarters. Kale believed Tisk was domesticated enough for supervised visits to the agricultural deck. The scents of the plants, he argued, were stimulating. He had done it before without issue. One afternoon, he brought Tisk to the garden's edge. Kim Ji-hun was there, checking the pH levels of a nutrient tank. Sumin was at the far end, recording growth data. Tisk was on a harness. But Vulprek harnesses were designed for their own slender limbs. On the powerful, spring-like body of a forest cat, it was less secure. A sudden noise from a dropping tool startled the creature. It twisted with explosive force. The clip on the harness snapped. Tisk was free. For a second, the cat froze, its golden eyes wide. Then its instincts took over. This was a new place, full of strange smells and hiding spots. It bolted, a streak of gray fur, deeper into the garden maze of tall hydroponic racks and leafy plants. Kale cried out, giving chase. Sumin looked up from her work. She saw the flash of movement. She saw Kale running. And she saw Ji-hun, standing by his tank, his head turning to track the noise. Her blood went cold. This was not a falling case or a broken valve. This was a living thing, predator, running loose in a confined space. She heard Commander Jun's voice in her head. Fear is a poison, and she knew, with a terrible certainty, that the hunter focus did not distinguish between a falling tool and a fleeing threat. It responded to critical, moving targets. She held her breath and watched Kim Ji-hun's face. The world slowed down for Park Sumin. The rustle of leaves, the hum of the garden lights, Kale's worried calls. All of it faded into a dull background roar. Her entire focus was on Kim Ji-hun's face. He stood perfectly still by the water tank. His head had turned toward the sound of the fleeing forest cat, Tisk. His body was not poised to run. It was locked in place, like a tree with deep roots. Sumin saw his eyes. They changed. It was not the quick flash from the galley or the storage room. This was slower, deeper. His pupils widened, absorbing the light, turning his gaze into two dark, bottomless holes. But they weren't wild or scared. They were intensely, chillingly calm. They scanned the green maze not with panic, but with a methodical precision. They tracked the rustling of leaves, the shift of a shadow under a grow light. He was not looking for the cat. He was already locked onto its path. He was predicting where it would go. Kale stumbled past him, his long limbs clumsy in the tight space. Tisk, stop, please. The cat did not stop. It was terrified, a primal creature in a metal jungle. It zigzagged, knocking over a tray of seedlings. Then it found a corner formed by two large nutrient tanks, a dead end. It spun, its back against the cold metal, its fur puffed out. It saw Kale approaching and let out a low, grating hiss, bearing needle-sharp teeth. This was no longer a pet. This was a cornered animal. Kale stopped, holding out his hands. Easy, easy, Tisk. But Tisk's eyes were fixed on the larger, approaching Vulprek. It hissed again, a promise of violence. One leap could put those claws into Kale's thin arms. Sumin took a step forward, her mind screaming. She needed to do something, call security, anything. Then Ji-hun moved. He did not run at the cat. He did not shout. He simply walked with a quiet, deliberate steadiness, placing himself between Kale and the cornered creature. He was now closer to Tisk than anyone else. Ji-hun, no, Sumin whispered. But the words stuck in her throat. Ji-hun did not look at her. He did not look at Kale. His entire being was oriented toward the hissing, spitting ball of fear in the corner. His dark, expanded pupils were fixed on one point. The cat's throat.it was not a look of anger. It was not a look of hate. It was a look of absolute analytical assessment. A threat had been identified. Its source, its size, its capability. The hunter focus had activated. But the target was not food or a tool. The target was the center of the danger itself. Tisk saw him. Its golden eyes met Ji-hun's black ones. The hissing stopped, choked off into a confused growl. The creature's instincts were sharper than any scanner. It did not see a fearful human or a shouting Vulprek. It saw a stillness more profound than its own. It saw a gaze that did not waver, that offered no fear to feed on. It saw in that silent human stance a counterpredator. The cat hesitated. Its puffed fur began to lay flat, just a little. It let out a smaller, uncertain sound. Ji-hun did not move a muscle. He did not blink. He was a statue with living, dark eyes. He was not trying to dominate the animal. He was simply presenting it with an immovable fact. I see you. I am not afraid of you. You will not pass. 10 seconds passed. They felt like an hour. Then, the tension broke. Tisk's shoulders slumped. It looked away from Ji-hun's eyes, turning its head to the side in a gesture of submission. It let out a soft, pathetic mule. At that moment, Kale, moving with the grace of his species, slowly slipped forward. He reached out and gently closed his hand on the loose end of the broken harness. Tisk did not resist. The spell shattered. Ji-hun blinked. He took a small, shuddering breath, as if waking up. His pupils shrank back to their normal size. The terrifying focus was gone, replaced by a look of mild concern. He took a step back, giving Kale space. Is it okay? Ji-hun asked, his voice quiet and normal. Kale held Tisk close, soothing the trembling animal. He looked at Ji-hun, his large Vulprek eyes wide with a mixture of gratitude and something else. Awe, and a hint of fear. You stood it down, Kale breathed. I have never seen that. Thought you were. He did not finish. He didn't need to. Sumin finally let out the breath she was holding. Her legs felt weak. She had seen it all. The targeting, the assessment, the silent confrontation. The reflex had not triggered violence. It had triggered a supreme, calculating calm. It had de-escalated a dangerous situation by being more still, more focused, than the danger itself. Commander June arrived then with a security officer. Kale was full of apologies, promising stricter controls. The commander's eyes went from Kale to the now placid Tisk, and finally to Ji-hun, who was simply looking at the spilled seedlings with a botanist's regret. June's gaze met Sumin's. In his eyes, she saw the same realization that was dawning on her. This was not a tool for catching food or fixing valves. This was a fundamental survival circuit, and it could be used to hunt or to protect or to stand an unblinking guard. The line between those things, she understood now, was very thin, and it existed only in the mind of the quiet man now cleaning up the dirt. A formal report was filed. Vulprek researcher Kale received a stern warning. The incident with the pet forest cat, Tisk, was recorded as a contained animal control event. The official logs praised Kale for its eventual recapture and noted no injuries. Kim Ji-hun's name was not in the report, but the silence in Commander Choi Jun's office the next day was heavy. Park Soo-min and Lee Tae-shik sat before his desk. The commander looked older. He looked at that animal, June said quietly, and his brain did not see a pet. It did not see a friend's property. It saw a clear and present threat to a member of his crew. And it engaged. It defused the situation, Soo-min pointed out. This time, June replied, what if the threat had been a person? What if it had been a Vulprek in a rage, or a Thrum in a rockstorm? Would the response have been calm assessment or something else? We do not know the limits of this instinct. Tae-shik shifted in his chair. Sir, we've seen it 3 times now. Each time it solved a problem. The tart was about saving food. The valve was about saving the station's air. The cat was about saving Kale. It's not a monster. It's a tool. A really, really good one. A tool we do not understand and cannot control, June said. He folded his hands. My order stands. We bury this. We do not speak of it. We watch, but we do not interfere. Jihan's life continues as normal. That is the kindest thing, and the safest thing, for everyone. Sumin knew he was right, but it felt like a lid being slammed shut on a vital truth. They were pretending a part of humanity did not exist, simply because it was inconvenient. Weeks passed. The rhythm of the station reclaimed them. The subtle tension from the garden incident faded. Jihan remained his quiet, competent self. He seemed to have no memory of the profound stillness that had taken him over. To him, it was just a moment where he didn't run away. One afternoon, Sumin found herself in the communal galley. It was quiet, off-cycle. Jihan was there, alone at a table, reviewing plant data on a tablet. Li Taishik was at another table, tinkering with a small, handheld drone. Sumin got a drink and sat where she could watch without being obvious. She felt a pang of guilt, but the scientist in her was still awake. Taishik finished his adjustment. Hey, Yi-hun, watch this. I fixed the stabilizer. He set the little drone on the table. With a tap, it lifted into the air, humming softly. It was about the size of an apple. It hovered, perfectly steady. Then Taishik, grinning, gave it a gentle, spinning flick with his finger. The drone wobbled, then darted in a quick, erratic circle around Jihan's head before stabilizing again. Jihan looked up from his tablet. He smiled at the machine's dance. Much better, he said. But Sumin was not looking at his smile. She was looking at his eyes. The drone had zipped past his temple. A flicker of movement. His pupils had flared. Just for an instant. A rapid expansion and contraction. Faster than a heartbeat. It was a microspike, a tiny echo of the grand reflex. His brain, for 1,000th of a second, had noted the moving object, calculated its path, and filed it away as non-threatening. The switch had flipped, but the power was barely turned on. Taishik, laughing, guided the drone back to his hand. He had seen nothing. Jihan went back to his work. Sumin sat very still, her drink forgotten. The final piece clicked into place. It was not a monster. It was not a secret weapon. It was a sense, like hearing or smell. A latent, hyperacute awareness of moving things that mattered. For ancient humans, that was food, tools, threats. For Jihan, it was a berry tart, a falling case, a broken valve, a frightened creature. And now, a friend's toy buzzing by his ear. It was always on, in its way. A background program, scanning the world, ready to snap into perfect, silent clarity when needed. That was humanity's open secret. It was in every one of them, she realized. In the surgeon's hands, the pilot's glance, the climber's grip. It was the ghost in the machine of civilization. She stood up and walked over to their table. Both men looked up. Everything okay, Sumin? Taishik asked. She looked at Jihan. His face was open, kind, utterly normal. The deep, dark pools of the hunter's focus were gone, hidden away until the station, or the universe, decided it needed them again. Yes, she said, and she meant it. Everything is fine. She left the galley, the hum of the station a comforting song around her. The mystery was solved, not with a bang, but with the quiet understanding of a flicker in a man's eyes. No grand revelation would come. Humanity would continue, a species of gentle botanists and clever engineers, carrying their ancient, watchful gaze out into the stars. It was not something to fear or announce. It just was. And for the first time, Park Sumin felt completely at peace with the secret they would keep.